about God at work today, all right? And I'm going to start you guys out with a little story. It's about a kid I used to mentor him, and I think it was really like from God's like grace that like I entered into this relationship with this kid, and he's like 20 years old, and he's super smart, wicked good at chemistry, and he was. He had had some troubles before, and we just met at the right time, at the right moment, and it was like, you know, this was definitely God. Like, and he brought up some things that, like, he struggled with. He had trouble with drugs, and he said that church didn't do enough to address this problem. So, and this was like way back. So we're going back a little bit, like 2 years ago. So the church didn't do enough to do this problem. So of course, when I have the opportunity to like do my own like sort of weekend at Living Hope for the youth there, like, listen, I think we're going to make you the solution to your own problem here, and or we're going to try anyway. And I was like, hey man, like, how do you feel about giving your testimony and talking about it and talking about the things that you went through and what we need to do better, or why this is wrong, right? One of those typical be the solution to your own problem. And I thought it through, and I was like, this is a good idea. I'm going to do it. So I did it, and I asked him, and I was super pumped because this was like somebody I really invested time in. Like, not only did I like just meet up and hang out with him, like I also like would spend time, and I did like a little survey with him, and like Old Testament survey, which is amazing how much time and work you guys put into it. I learned very rapidly. So I was spending all this time to like try and teach him the Bible, and I was doing like book by book because I knew what it did to me. I knew how much it had enlightened me and brought me closer to God. So I wanted to do the same thing for him. So I poured all this time and work into these meetings. Like sometimes I spend as much as like 5 or 6 hours just preparing like one thing for him, right? Like 1 hour where we hang out and go over the Bible, and I try and teach him the Bible like book by book. And so, you know, I felt that deeply invested in him. He was somebody I worked on, you know. You're trying to make him better, right? And so what I did know is I was like, you know, this is perfect. This is like sort of like the fruition of like all of our work, like him drawing closer to God, me helping him, you know, the fruition of all of that. But what ended up happening was he didn't get back to me, and he waited on it, a little bit, and then finally it was like the week before, and I was like, hey man, like, you know, are you good? And he's like, no, I don't want to do it. Like, I'm not going to come. And I was, you know, super bummed out. Like, you know, when you like consider the work you put in it, like, you know, there's a heart effort. If you're really going to put yourself into people and really like make an effect on their life, it requires your heart as well as their heart. Like, you know, it requires not just like your time, it requires your heart as well. So we ended up in this broken sort of relationship where it wasn't like really good. Like, you know, you're a little bit frustrated because you're like, why do you not want to do this? Like, this is what I feel like we've been working on this whole time, is something like this, is that you would do, like, you would bring other people closer to God. And it was like, you know, I thought this was my brilliant plan, but it wasn't. So there was a little despair in the relationship, but we patched things up and everything's good now, and I got over it. It was mostly me getting over it. But I wanted to tell you that, you know, that story, and like immediately when I think about that story is I think of Saul, and he's at like Gilgal, and he's preparing for the battle, right? and he has like all these people who are waiting on him, and they're about to leave, right? And he's like, where is Samuel? Where is Samuel? I'm waiting on Samuel. Like, when is he going to get here? And he's already supposed to have been here. And so Saul goes and does the sacrifice and the peace offering on his own in order to like try and get God's favor. And clearly that was a mistake in Saul's life. There was a severe decline in Saul's life after that. But that's like, that's what I considered that moment in my life to be like. So we're going to be looking at Judges 6 today, even after all that introduction. We're going to be looking at Judges 6. And if you can turn to the slide, perfect. So this is like, I'll give you a little context. So this is what happens in the whole book of Judges. I'm just going to sum it up in one big swoop. Israel serves God as they were supposed to. Israel falls into sin and idolatry. Israel is oppressed. Israel cries out to the Lord. God raises up a judge, and then Israel is delivered, right? And this cycle, over and over and over and over and over, right? And we see it, and it's just like enamored in there. So, but this particular passage, Judges 6, what they have is they're being oppressed right there in Judges 6. And the Midianites and the Amalekites. And they are, what they're doing is they're coming in, and they have marauders that are coming in after the harvest, and they're taking everything that they had just worked for, right? And when you consider a harvest, this isn't like, just like a day's worth of work. Like, it's 4 months worth of work for a harvest, like, or more, like possibly more. Like a wheat harvest I was looking at, 8 months for a wheat harvest. How crazy is that? 8 months worth of your work, and it magically, somebody just comes in, swoops in, takes it, and then leaves, right? And it says that they looked out, and they were as many as locusts. How crazy is that? The people are as many as locusts. They're coming in, taking your food, and leaving. And they said their camels were all over the place, and they would just leave the land completely desolate. And we're just going to pick it up. We're going to be talking about Gideon. We'll pick it up in verse 11, 6:11. You guys are already there. I'm slacking as norm. All right. So, now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth at Ophrah, which belonged to Joaz. All right, I'm missing a slide on that one. And the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. One, this tells you 2 things right off the bat. He was beating out wheat in a winepress. Like, that's a little odd, right? Why would you beat out wheat in a winepress? Because you're doing 2 things. You're making the winepress dirty, which who wants to drink wheat wine? I don't really want to drink wheat wine. So, like, obviously, they don't have any wine either, but he's also beating out wheat in a winepress, which is showing you that he's trying to hide this, very clearly trying to hide this so that they would not see that he is trying to get harvest this wheat, right? So they have no wine, he's in total despair, like this is like you wouldn't do that to your wine press. So like, they have no wine, like there's no chance of them having wine, so their world is settled for wheat. Like maybe we can come out with the wheat, luckily. And then picking up in verse 12, and it says, the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, the Lord is with you, mighty man of valor. And Gideon said to him, please, sir, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all of his wonderful deeds that our fathers recounted to us, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us and given us into the hand of Midian. Like this in our time, this is the call out. Like, where were you at? Where are you at, God? Like, tell me, we've all had these moments in our lives where it's like, where are you at? Why aren't you here? Why aren't you helping me? Like, I have these it feels like once every season or so. It's like, where are you at? Why aren't you helping me? My life is like screwed up. Like, this is supposed to be your job. Like, you are supposed to help me get through this. And so he's showing like total despair. And he's doing exactly what God wanted here. He's recalling the deeds of God bringing up the people from Israel, which is what God wanted. Is He wanted His people to recount those deeds up to the next generation, so that they would know all the miracles that He did in Egypt. And Gideon said, we'll go down to 14. And the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in this might of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you?" So there you have the call. It says, "Do not I send you?" All right. He said, and you have to remember, Gideon's looking at a man and he's telling him, "Go save your people from the Midianites." And then he's saying, "Do not I send you?" It's a clear call. Like, I am sending you. I want you to go. And then we're in 15. And he said to him, "Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least of my father's house." How many of us, when we come before something, when we have this idea of what God wants us to do, and it's bigger than us, right? We're on the wall and we're building something that's bigger than us. And we know that we can't do it on our own. We know we're not good enough. And we're saying, "I am completely inadequate for this job. There's no part of me that can do this on my own." And to be honest, I feel like I have these every time I go to preach. Every time the night before, I'm like, I'm completely inadequate for this task. I cannot do this on my own. Like, I need your help, God. And you notice what he says here is, my clan is the worst in Manasseh. Like, I'm not even, my family, like, they're not there. Like, we are not royalty, we are not special, there's nothing special about us. And, like, you think Gideon here is having his doubts. Like, how many of us have doubts when God has called us to do something, or when God asks us to do something for Him? All right, so me and Jacob, that's cool, I'm with it. I'm preaching to one person now. We'll specialize this. So he isn't special here. God is calling an ordinary man to do something special for Him, to save His people. And it goes on, and it says, and the Lord, Gideon throws up his objection to why it shouldn't be him, and then I love how God comes back here, and the Lord said to him, "But I will be with you." Said, "But I will be with you." All right, it's not Gideon anymore. It's not flesh. It's not bone. It is the very power of God. The very power of God that made the heavens and the earth. It's not flesh and bone. You want to know what? So 1 plus 1, me plus Josiah is 2, right? Me plus God is infinity. All right, 1 plus infinity is still infinity. All right, so we are not looking at our works in the flesh. We're not looking at how we can do things. We have to look at how God will do things. All right? "And I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man." And then there's this whole side deal, and I kind of like this last part. Gideon finally gets it, an angel talking to him. Verse 22. He does this whole side, and Gideon brings a sacrifice, and it was like a goat and some crackers. And then like brings it back to the angel. And then the angel takes the tip of his spear, touches the meat, and it instantly lights on fire. And then in verse 22, this is great. Gideon perceived that he was Gideon perceived that he was the angel of God after he magically disappeared, which is like showing the foolishness of man entirely. And actually, I totally skipped this part. I absolutely love this quote. And this is going back. However, it is when a man is fully conscious of his weaknesses and the difficulties of his situation that the Lord can take and use him. The man who relies upon his own innate strength is not likely to draw upon the grace of the Lord's grace, nor give him glory for anything that is achieved. It is also equally true that the Lord saw not only the man that was weak and timorous, but the man that can be strong and resolute and courageous. I mean, you're looking at, God looks at man in an entirely different way. He does not look at our weaknesses or our strengths or what's going on in our lives or our DNA or our genetic abilities, right? Is what I'm gathering. He looks at what he can be. And I love that. But then we gotta continue on here because we gotta see what God does with Gideon. And we'll stop over in verse 36. So 6:36. And the Lord said to Gideon, if you will save Israel Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, but here's the emphasis, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, behold, I am laying a fleece on the threshing floor. If there's any dew on the fleece, and it is dry on the ground, right? And we know this, he takes the fleece and he says, all right, have dew on the ground and make the fleece dry. And then he does the opposite, right? Make the fleece wet, make the ground dry. Like, God provides another side to him. But here's, in that last section on 37, verse 37, it says, then I shall know that you have said, that you will save Israel by my hand. He reiterates it, that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said. So, it's the purpose that God declared that he will bring about through Gideon, So there's a little 3 there for you. So then we're going to skip ahead to chapter 7, verse 1. And I like this because there's this whole scene in between that I skipped over because we just don't have time. That like Gideon takes a bull. God tells Gideon take a bull, pull down this altar of Baal and the Asherah, and Gideon goes and does it. And then he gets this new name, 7-1, and then Jerubbaal, which it is literally, they call him that, let Baal contend against him, or contend against him. And it's like you got named against a foreign god. Like, that's, alright, like, that's cool. Like, I'm with that. Alright, so then Jerubbaal and all the people who were with him rose early and encamped beside the spring of Haran. And the camp of Midian was north of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And the Lord said to Gideon, the people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their land, lest Israel boast over me. My own hand has saved me. Now therefore proclaim in the ears, saying, whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home and hurry away from Mount Gilead. And then 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. So God's like, we have too many. Send them away, send it away. Any that are scared, any that are afraid, have them go home, and I don't need them. I don't want Israel to boast over me. So send those home and we'll go with a lower number, right? But then he's like, you know what? I think I can do with less. And in verse 4 it says, and the Lord said to Gideon, take the people are still, and the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many for me. Take them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. Anyone of whom I say to you, this one shall go with you, and any one of them, oh my gosh, and any one of whom I say to you, this one shall not go with you, shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, everyone who lapped the water with his tongue as a dog lapped, you shall set by himself. Likewise, everyone who kneels down to drink, and the number of those who lapped, putting their hands to their mouth, was 300. But all the rest of the people knelt down to drink. And the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men who lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hand. Let all the others go, every man to his home. Like, still too many, brings them down to 300. Takes them down to the creek, like, does some weird thing, like, why are we lapping water? Like, I guess people lapped water back in the day. Not an ordinary thought process, but maybe people still lap water somewhere.
Avoid the crocodiles in the water.
Yeah. So they're down there, 300 of them, drinking water, and he's like, 300, perfect. Remember, the number of people that were in the Midianites, that were in the land, that camels were not to be numbered, that people were like locusts in the land. And God's like, I need, you know what, 300 is a good number. Let me not go with everyone, like I would think. Like, you know what, I'm going to have my best people go forward, like all the strong men that I can find, everyone. If I can give them a sword, I'll send them, you know. But God's like, no, I just need 300. Like, that's satisfaction for me. Satisfactory for me. And then we'll go ahead and we will do verses 9 as well. All right. And then the same night, the Lord said to him, arise and go down to the camp, for I have given it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down to the camp with Purah your servant, and you shall hear what they say, and afterward your hands shall be strengthened to go down against the camp. Then he went down with Purah his servant to the outposts of the armies who were in the camp. Right? So probably another thing I wouldn't have done either. Like, I probably wouldn't have just been like, you want whatever, God, I'm going. But he's like, I need some reinforcement here. So like, he goes down, and I probably wouldn't have gone down to the camp. That probably would have scared me more. But he goes down to the camp with his servant, and we have this scene here. And so they're around the posts of the armed men in the camp. And the Midianites in verse 12, and the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the people in the east lay along the valley like locusts in abundance. And their camels were without number, as the sand that is on the seashore in abundance. When Gideon came, behold, a man was telling a dream to his comrade. And he said, behold, I dreamed a dream, and behold, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, and came into the tent, and struck it so that it fell over and turned upside down so that the tent lay flat. So you got two buddies in a tent telling each other a dream, like, I have this dream, barley bread flips over, you're like, that's pretty interesting. I probably wouldn't have dreamed that. But once again, but this is what this guy dreamed. And then we'll go ahead and pick it up, and it says, there's not a good section there. So in verse 14, his comrade answered, this is no other than the sword of Gideon, the son of Joseph, a man of Israel. God has given into his hand Midian and all the camp. All right, so God provides a sign for Gideon that he can trust in him. All right, so let's go ahead and shoot down to, actually we're already there. We're at verse 15, so we're just going to keep reading. As soon as Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he worshipped, right? And he returned to the camp of Israel and said, "Arise, for the Lord has given the host of Midian into your hand." And he divided the 300 people and said he has 100 people over here, 100 people over here, and then he leads the 100 people. And so what they end up doing is they end up surrounding, I'm just going to summarize this. They end up surrounding the people in the valley, right? So you have all the people, all the Midianites, all the way back in this valley, right? And they're surrounding them on the hilltop, and God has them bring. I love this. Part of the reason I love the story of Gideon is Gideon does almost nothing, and God does everything. And he has them go out there with torches, a pot, and a trumpet. All right. So we're going to battle with a torch, a pot, and trumpet, right? All right. Probably not your normal battle attire. So they surround them, and then they throw the pot, and they blow the trumpet, and the torches are in there, and they think they're surrounded. So they start fighting each other, and they flee. So all their problems just got pushed down the land by God, right? So it wasn't really anything that Gideon did, or that the Israelites did that pushed these people out. It was what God did to push these people out. So let's go ahead and we'll look at some of these other verses that I had. Like Psalm 33, all right, so the Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He frustrates the plans of the people. The counsel of the Lord stands forever, and the plans of his heart to all generations. So the plans of God's heart stand for all generations. Like God's plan, no one's going to knock out God's plan. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, you're talking about an all-powerful God, and you're saying you're going to knock out his plan. Not going to happen. So let's hear the next verse. Many plans are in man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord will stand. So it's not what's in man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord that will stand. It's what God does that will stand. It's God's wisdom that will stand. All right, and next verse. Job 42, 1-3, all right? Says, the Lord answered, Job answered the Lord and said, "I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yourself can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I uttered, and I did not understand, things too wonderful for me which I did not know." So he said, "I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of God can be thwarted," right? No purpose of God, nobody can turn God's purpose into something else. And let's hear the next one, Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. "For my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, according to the Lord. For as high as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours, and my thoughts than yours." Right? So my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. My ways are higher than your ways. My purposes will not be thwarted. So whatever God says will come to pass. However God wants to do it, he'll do it. There's nothing that can stand in the way of God doing what he wants to do. All right, and then 1 Corinthians 3, 4, and 9. And I don't know if you noticed, but Gideon objected. And like a lot of times before I speak, I don't want to speak because I think about all the stuff that I have to overcome in order to do it. And I'm looking at all my insecurities, and I'm amazed by them. And then I pray to God that he'll take care of it. well, let's look at this. Gideon put up an injection, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that, like, if you let the things, your own faults and your own problems get in the way of you serving God, you're going to miss out. And here we have in 1 Corinthians 3:4, it says, for when one says, I will follow Paul, and another, I will follow Apollos, are you not being merely human? What then is Apollos? What is Paul? Servants for whom you believe, as the Lord assigned to each. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So Paul planted the churches, Apollos watered them, but then God gave the growth. It was God behind the whole thing. It was God's purpose. So then in verse 7 it says, neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. So whether, I feel like God has this whole plan out for the earth, right? And whatever your role is in it, you are nothing because God can do it with you or with somebody else. And the question really comes down to is, do you want to be a part of what God is doing? And see this growth. And then goes on in verse 8, he who plants and he who waters are one. Each will receive his wages according to his labor. For we are laborers, we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building. So we work with God. And that's our invitation. Gideon got his invitation to work with God, to accomplish what God wanted to accomplish, to do what he wanted to do. And it wasn't God, one of the, I think the biggest misconception is we try and go about life and we try and do things for God. We try and do God's purposes and God's ways and what God wants us to do on our own power. We try and do God's thing with man's power. And you end up with a discrepancy. And what does man do? Man is really good at failing at things. I'm really good at failing at things. But God is really good at succeeding at things. So if we can go to the next slide. In my plan for what I wanted my friend to do, the kid I was mentoring, what ended up happening was I had a broken relationship with him. I looked at my short-term vision. I was working on my own power and my own strength. And in some way, it probably had man's glory behind it too. As sad and as frustrating as that is. And I walked away frustrated, and I walked away with pain because this was somebody that I cared about, and this was somebody I had invested in. And my investment, in my eyes, didn't come to fruition, right? In that moment. And I poured a ton of effort, and I didn't get much profit out of it. But I think the end result here is what you have is you have hubris. Is you think that our ways are going to be better than what God has to do. And we end up not seeking God's will and not seeking God's plans, and we end up seeking to do things on our own and accomplish what God wants to do with our own power. And then if you look at God's ways, backed by God's power, His omnipotence, backed by His a wisdom and for all practical purposes, an all-knowing God. God knows everything that He's going to come to pass. And, there's a joy when you get to do something with God. There's a joy in growing closer to Him. Becoming part of a plan that is bigger than you can imagine. And I think God has a plan for the world. And when we look to God and we look for our role in it, we get to take part in something that is much bigger than us. And much bigger in our flesh and bone. We get to take part in a plan that is God. And it's profitable to no end because it's for God's plan and His purposes. And it's exclusively for the glory of God. Like, man doesn't get glory from what God accomplishes. Or at least he shouldn't. It normally brings you closer to the people of God as well. I think when I do things with people for God, I draw much closer to them. So, what are we trying to get at? It's God's work that we need to be a part of. We don't need to make things better. The solution to life and the way and the method is not to make things better. It's like the ultimate goal, our ultimate goal is to give glory to God, right? At least I hope it is. It's to give glory to God. That's the ultimate goal. And there are two different ways of going about this, or trying to go about it. Is we can try doing it on our own power, which ends up failing. Like straight down the middle, it ends up failing all the time, almost consistently. Or we can go about it by God's power, through the way that He wanted it to go, through His plan, through the way that He wants it done. And I believe that if you go to God and if you go to God and you ask Him something, and you continually come to Him and petition Him and ask Him, I want to be part of your bigger plan, and He will bring you closer. And He will give you something to do. He will put something on your heart that He wants you to do for Him. And it won't be by your power that you'll accomplish it. It'll be by His power. Amen. All right, so I'll close in prayer really quick. God, I thank you for your mercy.